Hello, everyone. My name is Dua Zafar, your podcast host for the series of Smart Talks powered by Lincoln University of Business and Management. This is a platform where we look at different topics from various industries and inviting experts so that we can enlighten ourselves with more information. Today's episode surrounds ourselves on the topic of electromobility and sustainability in the automotive world. We are embarking on a profound exploration at the crossroads of technological advancements and environmental responsibility within the automotive realm of electromobility. From the humdrum of electricity to the dance of the lithium-ion batteries, we are currently at the finesse, at the crossroads, at the intersection of electromobility, sustainability, and business management. Together, we'll scrutinize the holistic eco-footprint of electric vehicles, meticulously tracing their lifestyle and their inception to their asphalt. To guide us through this enlightening journey, we are joined by a luminary in the field. Today's guest is a truly remarkable person in sustainable transportation and business strategy. Joining us today is Mr. Kivansh Karayal, a market director with a remarkable track record across 5 different nations. Mr. Kivansh's influence extends as the head of electromobility and sustainable growth for the Middle East and Turkey, where he's responsible for implementing electromobility and sustainable growth strategies across an expansive region of 10 nations. With over a decade at Volvo Group, his expertise in cross-functional business development and multinational context shines through his leadership strategies. He also serves as a mentor and coach, leveraging his experiences to provide guidance to members, coaches, partners, and clients. Please welcome Mr. Kivansh Karayal, a trailblazer at the intersection of sustainability, business acumen, and transformative leadership. Hello, Mr. Kivansh. How are you?
Hi, Noah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, I am very excited to continue this conversation about the topic that we have for today. So, given your background in electromobility sector, I want to first ask you, why is electromobility so important in this day and age?
I think electromobility and sustainable development, transportation, and all these kind of topics have been important for a while. But mainly probably the awareness of the people, the world, society is much higher today compared to before. And unfortunately, we also started to see the negative impact of the climate change globally, worldwide. So as a result, we need to take an action right now. And if we don't take an action, it's going to be too late in the future. So therefore, today's importance is probably much higher than before in terms of a need of an action perspective. But if you ask me, it's always been very important. So it is just awareness of the society, organizations, institutions is much higher compared to before today.
That is something that's to think about because climate change is definitely a pressing problem in today's time. So if we own an electric vehicle, what are the key benefits that are arisen from that?
There are a lot of benefits with the electric vehicle, even either it's a commercial vehicle or a passenger car that we are talking about. First of all, and probably the most important one, is that, of course, all these vehicles generate zero tailpipe emission throughout the operation, right? So basically, it's the most environmental friendly option that you can offer to your clients and the society can have for the time being, of course, especially a comparison with the internal combustion engines, ICE units, it's not even comparable. The second thing that we can talk about it is, of course, obviously, it's much more silent. So you're not going to be actually reducing the air pollution, but you will also be reducing the noise pollution on the streets and also for the society. Again, from the consumer perspective, the maintenance costs and the operation cost will be much higher compared to the fossil fuel engines. We can say so many other benefits, advantages of using an electric vehicles, either on the passenger side or on the commercial vehicle side. But I will just go back to the beginning. So the biggest advantage is that you can deliver a much better world to the societies for the next generations, for the future generations to come.
So what you are conveying is that it's not comparable to the current vehicles we have. Could you emphasize on that?
Yeah, sure, definitely. I mean, of course, it depends on which type of vehicle that we are using, either on the passenger car or on the commercial vehicle. But if you are using a fossil fuel needing energy engine, then of course you are contributing to the carbon emissions, right? But when it comes to the battery electric vehicle, as I said, so it generates zero tail pipeline emissions. So it's definitely much more healthier solution that you can deliver to the next generations, to the future generations.
So that is a very interesting point. You said it's a healthier solution. So statistically speaking, 7 million people die from air pollution every year. So we're not just, fighting for the environment or the climate, but also for our own health. So that is an interesting point to emphasize on. But since there are so many benefits, what are the challenges in implementing electromobility?
Well, everything is not that easy, right? I mean, I wish it was that easy. Otherwise, we would be seeing all these electric cars and electric trucks, buses, or even construction equipments, all these type of vehicles. But we are not there yet. So there are obviously some challenges. So if I may put it in the beginning, obviously the financial logic. I mean, the financial logic is a little bit different on the passenger cars and is a little bit different on the commercial vehicles. The good thing is that the financial logic is not so much looked up on when it comes to the passenger cars, right? I mean, most of the people, unless you're a taxi driver or unless you're a professional driver, you are not looking to get a benefit out of your car that you are using, or at least you are not looking for a financial gain, right? So emotions are really playing a huge importance when it comes to going for a passenger car in the minds of the customers. But especially when we are talking about the commercial vehicles, financial logic has to be there. I mean, the name already suggests itself. It's a commercial vehicle. And if manufacturers, if the policymakers, if governments or the rule makers, if the charging infrastructure facility is not in place, in short, if the customers, if the clients, if the society does not see the financial logic benefits, then, of course, it actually slows down the acceleration. It slows down the implementation phase. So to keep it short, the financial logic is one of the big challenges. Obviously, infrastructure, charging infrastructure. I mean, I do not know if you have a car or not, but probably you're at least using someone else's transportation, whether it's a private or a public one. Not any people in the society. There is no one in the society when they are using a fossil fuel that they are asking to the salespeople, where can I get the fuel, right? I mean, it's publicly available everywhere. But if you are to go for an electric vehicle, either it's a truck or a passenger car, obviously you need to plan all these things way ahead. And unfortunately, charging infrastructure is not as wide as compared to the obviously fuel stations, oil stations that we do have in the nation. So these are basically the biggest challenges that we are facing when it comes to the implementation phase.
So you've mentioned electric cars and electric trucks. This is something out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Will there be electric planes as well?
That's a very good question. I really do not know if there were studies about it or not. But why not? I mean,
Yeah, why not?
Probably they will need a massive amount of a battery. I really do not know if the capacity could be manageable. But why not?
But
Why
we went
not?
to the moon. I think we can.
Yeah, exactly. Why not? Why not?
Yeah, so this is something that's a very interesting concept. Before, 10, 15 years ago, we'd put batteries in our remotes, and now they're on our cars.
Yeah, exactly. Battery technology is developing a lot. I think you can just see the same development in any vehicle, in any device that you are using, right? I mean, right now we are living in a world that almost everybody are using mobile phones.
Yes.
I mean, just look at your mobile phone performance. I mean, in terms of talking hours, in terms of listening a video or a music or any type of thing that you can do on your mobile phone, how many hours or how many minutes was it able to survive 5, 10 years back and just look at the current status. I think it goes the same for all battery equipment vehicle, right? So the technology is definitely evolving and improving each and every day.
So it's growing exponential day by day.
Definitely, I think that's the right word to put it. It
And
grows exponential.
that is something that's very interesting. Now with AI, it's probably going to grow even more exponentially since the calculations will be done faster.
Exactly, definitely. I mean, AI, electromobility, and sustainable development are just integrated with each other, right?
Yes.
So I think we're going to be talking about how is the development in the globe, or especially in Middle East and UAE. But without going into the details of the numbers so much, I mean, the growth is not single digits. I mean, the growth is even way higher than double digits in terms of charging infrastructures, network, in terms of available vehicles, either truck or a passenger car. So the growth is massive.
That is something that's very nice to hear when there are many climate crises that are constantly going about, but that there are also solutions that are not in single digits, but they are exponential.
True.
Now, you were mentioning about development in the Middle East and the UAE regarding electric vehicles. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, we have a little bit a challenging situation in Middle East and in UAE in specific. I mean, you know that battery equipment vehicles or any battery equipment is not the best friend of the extreme temperatures, right? I mean, either
Yes.
it's too hot or too cold, then the batteries actually not struggling, I would say, but it challenges the
There
usage
is a
conditions.
risk.
Exactly. So that is one thing in our region, in Middle East and UAE. But at the same time, I mean, of course, if you go to Europe or in many other parts of the world, the temperature can easily go down to minus degrees Celsius, right? So it's more or less does bring the same challenge on the battery performances. We actually did not start this journey as early as many other regions in the world. Obviously, Asia, especially China, I could say, a couple of different countries as well, Europe and North America, started this journey a little bit earlier than Middle East and in UAE. Not from the manufacturer's perspective, but I think the society, and as a result of the society wish, I think governments and the local authorities were a little bit more involved in that journey in those regions. So we are a little bit maybe coming behind of those 2 or 3 continents, but we are coming with the full speed. I mean, governments, local authorities, manufacturers, charging infrastructure suppliers. I think we are having a very, very nice collaboration and very positive approach that we are seeing from the government, local authorities. It's going with the full speed. Are we there yet? No, we are not there yet. But we are having a lot of conversations with Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure, with DEWA, Dubai Electricity Water Association. The government, local authorities, policymakers are really putting their minds, everything, their financial strengths, and their authority strengths to make this happen for the whole nation.
Especially considering since UAE is an active member in this conference of parties, and just including their speech, their agenda on climate change in order to tackle it, since we're seeing the effects in terms of the heat at the moment. So I would like to ask you about your role at Volvo Group, Middle East and Turkey. How are you contributing to the electrification of the automotive industry?
Volvo Group is a big, giant, key player in the
Yes.
commercial vehicle industry and manufacturing. The company does have presence almost all around the world.
Yes.
And it's represented by the office in Dubai for its operations in Middle East and in Turkey. So we are looking after in total 14, 15 countries that we are working together with our business partners, like in UAE, for example. I'm very happy and proud to say that Automotive is our exclusive business partner for UAE in specific. And we do have different exclusive business partners in these countries that we are handling. Obviously, we are not only selling electric trucks. We will get there. But we are not there yet. So obviously, we are also running the business for the internal combustion engines. So in short, when it comes to electromobility, of course, it requires a huge analysis, right? I mean, together with the engineering team, if there is energy on our customers' premises or in public stations, that we will be able to use that spare energy as a charging infrastructure need, or what we can do and how we can help our customers to kill that range anxiety that they have it, because either on the passenger car or on the commercial vehicle, drivers, people who are using these vehicles does have range anxiety. So what we are doing basically, in short, together with our business partners in each and every market, we are actually trying to promote, and we are penetrating the customers who are having ICE units, internal combustion engine units in their fleets, and trying to replace them with electric vehicles. So we are encouraging, we are running the complete business, and I'm happy to lead this development together with our business partners in the region.
That is outstanding because you're replacing the ICE units, the internal combustion engines present within the vehicles, and you're replacing it with batteries. Yes.
Not actually, not actually. I try to say that actually, of course, we are trying to promote electric trucks, electric vehicles, and we are trying to put it in front of the internal combustion engines.
Okay.
So yes, there are some organizations who are talking about that, but we are not there yet. So for the time being, either we offer internal combustion engine units to our customers or battery electric vehicle. Having said that, I don't know, maybe you might be having a question about on that part, but electromobility is not the one and only sustainable solution that Volvo Group is offering to its clients. So obviously we can work about the alternative fuels, biodiesel, and some other alternative fuels. Electromobility is not the one and only way for us to go for sustainable.
So Volvo Group is not only pushing forward for electromobility, but different biodiesel alternatives. So that is very interesting. Would you say that Volvo Group is at the forefront of sustainability into transportation?
Well, I mean, of course, I'm working for this company. I can say that proudly, happily, but I also hope that everybody will agree with me on that part. I mean, it's a very sweet competition between all these brands, between all these giant key manufacturers, key players. But if you just talk about the numbers, I mean, Volvo in Europe, for example, if I just give you an example, by far the market leader when it comes to the electromobility, right? And I really hope that we can continue with that pace and with that success even in the future. So coming back to your first comment or the question, there are different ways to go for sustainable, right? I mean, electromobility is not the one and only way, if you ask me. Of course, depending on your need, depending on your operation, depending on the energy needs that your operation requires, we are even offering different alternative solutions to our customers, to our clients, to our business partners. So I personally don't believe that one size fits to all clients or to all customers. So therefore, we are actually making ourselves available so that when the request comes, when the inquiry comes to us, we can actually propose different solutions to different organizations.
So there are a diverse range of solutions towards what the client needs specifically.
Exactly. That's exactly the right way to put it.
So isn't that interesting? Because you talk about, perhaps in this heat, there is a risk for having batteries. So rather than solely focusing on batteries, you have different alternative options present. So that is something that you can go continent-wise. Do you think that this is a reason why, the Middle East might be a bit lacking in terms of moving ahead with electromobility?
I actually personally wouldn't recall that because, I mean, if you go to especially Europe, in the northern European countries, obviously the temperature is minus in not maybe vast majority of the whole year, but I would say that minimum 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 months, there are European countries in the northern side of Europe that the temperature is minus. So it's more or less the same equivalent impact. Again, extreme temperatures are not the best friends of any battery vehicle equipment. We can speculate about the reasoning behind. Of course, I mean, Middle East is well known, and it's no confidential that these countries and UAE and the neighborhood countries are quite rich in terms of oil production. Might be one of the key factors. Infrastructure, obviously, is one of the reasons why we have not managed to put it on a wider scale. And there are a couple of reasons, but we can talk about the past. I mean, we can talk about reasoning behind, but maybe more important, what we can do today and what we can do in the future to get the acceptance from the whole society, and that we can increase our penetration.
So, you as an individual, what do you see for the future of electromobility?
I think electromobility, just as a person, electromobility will not be the one and only solution, if you ask me. I think there will be different alternative solutions with alternative fuels that we were just mentioning a couple of seconds back. And fuel cell, hydrogen vehicles will definitely
Yes.
take their portion. I mean, it can be used either on the passenger car or heavy commercial vehicle applications. So if the customers, if the consumers requires a longer range, um, heavier weight, loads, requirements, demands, then hydrogen will probably be a better option than the electromobility. So again, maybe I'm going to be repeating myself, but at the end, I believe electromobility is just going to be one of the sustainable solutions that we will have in the future, and there will be different alternatives.
So, speaking of these alternatives, there's electric car vehicles, there's hybrid vehicles, and then there's hydrogen vehicles. So, depending, first of all, to our viewers, could you explain the differences between them?
Yeah, sure, exactly. Electric vehicle, I mean, just on the very basic level, it gets the power from the batteries. So you basically need to charge your batteries depending on the range and depending on the charging capacity that your vehicle can accommodate. When it comes to the hybrids, the main source is actually between battery. It's just proportionally shared between the batteries and, of course, a fossil fuel. So we cannot say that hybrids cars actually generate zero tailpipe emissions. So it still contributes to the carbon emission, but not as bad as internal combustion engines or the fossil fuel engines, as we were talking. So when it comes to the hydrogen, this is probably the newest technology that most of the manufacturers are talking about. The main source is from the hydrogen. Each and every of these solutions having advantages and disadvantages. If you ask me at the end, again, initial cost is one of them. Range, finding the available charging stations for electricity, for hydrogen, and for hybrids. Well, sorry, for hybrid, as I said, you will not need to find any other charging stations than ordinary, regular fuel stations. But each and every of them have its own pluses and at the same time, maybe for the time being, have its minuses within itself.
Definitely. Since there, right now you mentioned that there is progress occurring on this electromobility. There is progress happening in hydrogen fuel cells as well.
Sure.
Now, in terms of progress in electromobility, you mentioned previously that the Gulf, perhaps, since they're majoring practically in oil expansion, but they're still so keen on helping out in electromobility. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Exactly, you are so right. We are regularly having conversations with almost all these local authorities, all the powerful local authorities. You can name it as Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure, DEWA, RTA, Road Transport and Authority. They are very helpful, and of course, they're also trying to create policies which does not only fit to one manufacturer, because I know the fact that they're having these conversations with different stakeholders from the society, with different manufacturers. So they're really trying to implement the best policies that the society will benefit at the end. Again, as I said, there are some challenges, but together with the rule makers, policy makers, with the charging infrastructure suppliers, because let me just say one thing, electromobility or this ecosystem is not as simple as the fossil fuel engines. I mean,
Yes.
you need to have the buy-in from almost all stakeholders just to be able to cut down the gap between the initial costs for the electric vehicles and fossil fuel cars, ICE units, let me put it in that way. you need to have a little bit incentives. And policymakers are the ones who can help us with that one. Charging infrastructure is another challenge. Obviously, manufacturers, charging infrastructure companies are helping on with that one. Last but not least, consumer behaviors. Of course, consumers are also need to be ready for the change. And within all these conversations, all these topics that we are having, I think we should be having the same target that we can deliver a better world for the future, for the next generations. And unfortunately, we cannot do it with the fossil fuel engines.
We cannot move forward with, the amount of CO2 production that is going
Yes.
on. So thank you so much, Mr. Kivanch. Now that this segment of interview questions have elapsed, let us move forward with students' questions from the Lincoln University of Business and Management. So can we go ahead with
Sure, exactly.
Okay,
Exactly. With pleasure.
So first of all, these electric vehicles, they are premium vehicles after all. So now they're lower income families and middle class families. Now, what do they do if they want to contribute? They want to have, a better fuel economy or, a lesser carbon footprint. But, after all, it is still a premium vehicle.
Sure, definitely. Let's be straightforward. Of course, right now, most of the customers, unfortunately, needs to compromise either from going for a sustainable or going for a cheaper options. That's the reason actually why you don't see it on a very much wider scale in many countries in the whole world. That's true. There's an obstacle in front of that initial financial cost. But not everything is about buying an electric car or electric vehicle, right? So as a consumer, that we can actually look into ourselves and we can also measure our even behaviors. I mean, I can even name about the eating habits. I can even name about ordering habits, online purchasing habits, because whatever the action that we take since the time that you wake up and start in a day till the time that you go to bed, just have a look at all the actions that you are also contributing, maybe not with a vehicle, but with the requests that you are putting or not, that you're also contributing to the carbon emission. Or if we are sensible, if we are cautious, and if we have enough awareness, if we have the educated mindset on that part, then we can take the right actions. But if you are talking about a purchasing of a vehicle, that's a trip for the time being. It is not so easily affordable for the vast majority of the societies in many countries.
So would you suggest alternatives such as hybrid vehicles for the time being at least, since they're not as premium as electric vehicles?
I do suggest actually to go for any other solution than fossil fuel engines. Anything, if you ask me, of course, whatever the solution, whatever the option that the customers go for, each and every action counts at the end, right? I mean,
Yes.
Each and every drop is helping to have a better life and cleaner air for the next generations that we will be having. Yes, obviously, I mean, any other solution than internal combustion engines with a fossil fuel energy supply is better.
That is something we should all think about, because if you look at it from this perspective, for now we might be in middle class or perhaps lower income, but if we as society we move towards non-fossil fuel alternatives, then we are at less risk of being displaced in the end,
True,
in the
true.
long run.
True.
So that is something to think about.
True.
So, this is the last question that I have for you in this interview. And that is, even people who have electric vehicles, the charging stations is, the number one concern. So if people are living in apartments or they're farther away, I imagine on the way to the charging station, they're out of battery or maybe some other concerns. So what other constraints go on over there?
Exactly. It's a very important question, a very, very important question. What we are doing, doesn't matter whatever we are doing, still that anxiety will be there till the solution comes in place for everybody. But how we are trying to help to find a solution and to reduce that anxiety on the customers. Obviously, our engineering teams have the capability to go to the premises, apartments, either it's a townhouse, villa, or a commercial area that we can check, is there any excess energy? Is there any excess or spare energy available in their places? It boils down for us to make that analysis and study, but also it boils down a little bit to the energy supplier for the countries that we are working with, right? For example, Dubai Electricity and Water Association in Dubai. So we can provide that option to our customers. When it comes to the charging infrastructure, yes, definitely. I mean, it's still a big challenge, big concern. And it's one of the obstacles that we maybe cannot grow as the way that we want to grow. I mean, even though the growth is in double digits, exponential, but obviously we would like to see a much, much faster growth, right? So this is one of the obstacles. What we are doing, we are having very serious conversations on that with Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure. I know their plans. I know by 2025, the target is to grow the current charging infrastructure by more than 60% just in 1.5 years. Will it be good enough? I think it's still not going to be good enough, but we are having all the required conversations, all the important conversations with politicians, rule makers, policymakers, and we're also having a coalition within the manufacturers, like in Europe, for example, how we can build up the own infrastructure, charging infrastructure for the customers and the society. But yes, it still is a big obstacle in front of the customers.
So it's so interesting to hear how you as a market director at Volvo Groups, you're not just focused on, the industry and manufacturing or direction, but also you're involved in, policy making and indirectly at least, and helping out in the dialogue and the discussion in the European coalition, as you previously mentioned. So it's quite fascinating because you say 60% growth in 1.5 years, and perhaps you say that's not enough, but since we have that 2030 target line in time, hopefully we will be achieving that.
Exactly. UAE government, Dubai government recently announced their targets, ambitious by 2050. The ambition is to have 50%. I'm talking about UAE in specific. By 2050, the target intention is to have minimum 50% of the vehicles as electric vehicles in UAE and in Dubai. So these are very ambitious targets. Yes, the electromobility and all this journey is a little bit very complex ecosystem. So there are a lot of key enablers. So it's not just only manufacturers and the oil producing companies like in the ICE units, as I say it. But of course, we are trying to touch up on each and every stakeholder that we can accelerate, that we can have a much faster and much better options that we can provide to the clients at the end.
That is very great. It's exciting to see that major corporations like Volvo Groups is so actively taking part in the the call for climate solutions, and they're also going planet over profits. They have these green initiatives as well. So thank you so much, Mr. Kivanch, for answering our questions. And there you have it, dear listeners. What an enlightening conversation we had in today's episode for Smart Talks powered by LUBM. Our expert guest has provided us with a wealth of insights into the fascinating realm of electromobility and its profound impact on sustainability within the automotive industry. The convergence of technology and sustainability is paving the path for a greener and much more efficient automotive future. As we've learned today, electric vehicles are not just a trend, but a pivotal solution that's shaping the landscape of transportation on a global scale. And indeed, the road ahead is exciting, and Smart Talks by LUBM will be here every step of the way to keep you informed and immersed in these transformative discussions. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more insightful conversations that drive us towards a smarter and much more sustainable world. And once again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Remember, the journey to a cleaner and much more sustainable future starts with every single one of us making informed choices. Every choice we make matters, whether it's the vehicles that we drive or the energy sources that we use. Together, we can create a better world for generations to come. Until next time, keep learning with Smart Talks, powered by Lincoln University of Business and Management. Thank you. Thank you.